And welcome back to Power Lunch. Oil is on pace for its worst week since the end of June. Now, this comes as a White House official says a summit between President Trump and Russia's President Putin is tentatively scheduled for the end of next week. Today also marks Trump's deadline for Russia and Ukraine to end the war or face additional sanctions. Now, here to discuss all of this and the impact on energy is Helima Croft. She's managing director and global head of commodity strategy at RBC Capital Markets. She's also a CNBC contributor. Helima, we've got this big set piece next week. First of all, where do you think it's going to be? We don't know
We don't know where it's going to happen. I suspect it will not be in a NATO country. I would look to the Gulf. I would look to potentially Saudi Arabia, where there were other rounds of talks. UAE is basically the front runner, I think, to host the talks. Mohammed bin Zayed, the ruler of UAE, was just in Moscow. So the question is, will this be the place where the negotiations take place? Yeah.
And then the question is, if there's a place, is there a deal, right? Does this mean that somehow behind the scenes something is teed up and solid enough that both sides feel it by meeting they can get it across the finish line?
Well, it's interesting you say both sides, because who will not be at the negotiations? Will Zelensky be at the negotiations? This is a U.S.-Russia deal.
Right?
But, you think about it. Zelensky may not be there, and the Europeans may not be there. And a lot of the sanctions architecture, you look at oil being off today, there's this anticipation every time we talk about U.S.-Russia talks, the sanctions are coming off. But the issue is a lot of the sanctions architecture, particularly related to energy, was put in place by the Europeans. So the Europeans will have a lot of authority and discretion over when the sanctions come off.
Yeah, and they're not going to like this.
And that, I want to go back to what you just said with the role of the Europeans and the Ukraine war here, because that factors into what we're seeing with this additional 25% tariff on India, too, and perhaps why India is reacting the way it is.
100%, because you think about the Europeans went forward in the summer of 2022 saying, we're not going to take any more Russian oil. Like, we hear Zelensky, we're not going to provide the ATM for the war. We're not only going to ban Russian oil imports, seaborne oil imports, we're also going to ban European services to move those barrels anywhere. The United States actually panicked. Janet Yellen was like, I don't want 3 million barrels of Russian oil off the market. We came up with price caps to be able to move those barrels that weren't going into Europe into places like India. Now, we said you have to pay less than $60. India's like, that's great. You're going to give us discounted Russian oil. Fantastic. We'll back up the truck. And Indian imports of Russian oil have climbed by about 1 million barrels a day since the start of the war. But again, they weren't breaking any rules. They were actually doing everything the United States wanted. So now you fast forward to where we are now, and we're telling India, we're going to hit you with much higher tariffs going forward if you don't stop taking Russian oil. And they're like, wait a second, you flipped the script on us. Like, why should we have to now not take this oil?
So in the meantime, if you look at crude prices, we're basically range bound and down. Why is that?
I think we're down today because we're not getting the 100% tariff announcement we thought we might be getting today. Instead, we're meeting next week. We're having talks. Is there a deal? Are sanctions coming off Russia? Again, though, we're getting ahead of ourselves because the Europeans are not at the table. They are the ones who have done the most significant energy sanctions. And by the way, here's another little problem with thinking about Russian oil returning to Europe. We just announced a trade deal with Europe. As part of that deal, $750 billion of purchases of U.S. energy over 3 years. Again, wildly ambitious number. Who is the U.S. going to displace into Europe under this deal? It's going to be displacing Russia. And the question is, how do you square more U.S. energy going into Russia with Russia deciding they're going to end the war? Russia's going to want sanctions off, and they're going to want to get their energy back into the European market. So there's a lot that still needs to be worked out.